721, Rebecca Jarvis joins us, ABC News Chief Business and Economic Correspondent. Rebecca, thanks for joining us here in St. Louis.
Happy to.
Let's start with Target. What do we know happened?
So as of now, what we know is 40 million credit card and debit card accounts have been compromised at Target between November 27th and December 15th, meaning if you shopped at Target, in a Target store over the holidays, chances are your credit or debit card is among those that have been compromised. Target is trying to get to the bottom of just how this happened. They're working with top law enforcement officials, but for anybody who thinks that their information may have been part of the information that was stolen, first thing you need to do, call your bank, call your credit card company, tell them you shopped at Target during that span of time, tell them that you'd like to figure out how to solve the issue and you want to solve it before there are any negative charges that show up on your account, because the reality here is since they stole 40 million credit and debit cards, you might not see phony charges on your account yet. You still need to figure out, get to the bottom of whether your account information has been stolen so that those don't show up sometime in the future.
Something like this, the exact same thing happened here locally at a supermarket not too long ago, and the banks here just gave everybody new debit cards. Would it be easier just to get a new card from our bank?
So yes, that's actually a great solution. The issue is going to be for the families who are still out buying Christmas presents and things like that, it's going to take some time. So if you call up your bank and you tell them you'd like a new one, that's great. You solved the problem for yourself. But the issue is if you need to go shopping in the next couple of days, you need to have an alternative game plan, and you should talk to your bank about what that could be.
Are they saying what happened? How did this happen?
It's most likely a virus, because it happened at 2,000, all the Target stores around the country. So what most likely happened, I've been talking to a lot of security experts about this morning, some virus was downloaded into the Target system, and as a result of that virus, every time they swiped any card through the system, you were part of the problem. They collected the data, and that's why it only impacted the people who shopped in stores and not the people who shopped online.
Target called foul on themselves this morning, correct?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. They've said that they're resolving the issue. They've apologized. I mean, it's terrible timing for Target, obviously, because this is the busy shopping season. They want as many people to walk in their door and walk in their door with confidence and spend money there. So it's not a good thing for Target, and they're going to have to really look back and see why this happened and whether they can ever protect themselves from something like this in the future. I'm sure they will want to find a response that is the kind of response that every consumer wants to hear, which is this won't happen again and this is why.
What happens if you shop today at Target? Is the problem at least solved going forward?
As far as they know, they have solved this issue. Everything that was occurred between, again, November 27th and December 15th. So the last time this occurred was Sunday of last weekend.
All right, let's move on to Ben Bernanke and his final news conference yesterday. What are your thoughts? Sort of big news coming out of his last one.
It's significant because what Ben Bernanke signaled is, A, the Federal Reserve believes that the jobs picture is improving, not fast enough, but it's improving. Right now, unemployment is 7%. Their forecast for next year, they improved their forecast a bit on the jobs picture. They believe that unemployment by next year could be, at the end of the year, as low as 6.3%. They also are going to pull back a little bit on their stimulus as a result of their improving economic view, but they're not pulling back so much on their stimulus so as to spook the markets, which is why you saw stocks yesterday rally to, again, all-time highs for the year.
Interesting that he has had an interesting run as the head of the Fed, isn't it? I mean,
he's a student. He studied the Great Depression. That was his thesis. That's what he explored as a young student and as a professor. And now he has literally been dealing with the most significant economic threat since the Great Depression. We know it as the Great Recession. And for so many people in America, there's people everywhere who are still feeling it. He has spent almost every single day of his career as Fed chairman, trying to stem that falling tide and trying to find ways to bring the economy back and resuscitate an economy that has been stubbornly slow at rebounding.
He's also the first head of the Fed or has changed the look because he's been so open and willing to sit down with reporters.
Yeah, that's a huge part of it. I was there yesterday for his last press conference, and no other Fed chairman has been this way, this transparent. If you recall the days of Greenspan, if you've been following the Fed for that long, Greenspan, reporters used to have to guess what Greenspan was thinking based on the size of his briefcase and his tie. I mean, we didn't have the kind of access to Greenspan that now we have to Chairman Ben Bernanke and his successor, who will likely be, she sits on the Fed now, Janet Yellen, Dr. Janet Yellen. She will continue that transparency. And yesterday, somebody actually asked in the press conference, what do you think of Janet Yellen? Will she continue with your policies? She's the one who came up with a lot of the policies and worked with Ben Bernanke to come up with a lot of the policies that are currently in place. So, yes, it'll be a continuation of that. And, yes, she will continue with press conferences and that openness, which they both believe is critical to helping people, the average person, better understand what the Fed is all about and what they're trying to do.
I think when Alan Greenspan ordered a sandwich, people didn't quite understand how he ordered.
Exactly. Does the mayo mean something? What does that mean?
And yet Bernanke was so open and so transparent, and yet he was maligned by a lot of people during his tenure.
Well, and yes, and it's not so much about the transparency that people question. And his policy has been the policy of buying $85 billion in bonds from the banks month after month. That's been a controversial policy because there are consequences. There are potential consequences for the Fed essentially expanding all of its balance sheet and expanding all of these purchases. I mean, now it owns trillions of dollars in our treasuries, in U.S. treasuries, and in mortgage debt. What will it do with that money? What will it do with all of those bonds someday? We still don't know what it'll do with all of that. So the question is, with this experimental policy, has the Fed potentially, and we still don't know, but has the Fed done harm to the longer-term economy? We still don't know that. What we know is that they've spent trillions of dollars. The unemployment rate has come down, but it's been stubbornly high still. It's still 7%, and that is, for many people, just too high. And there's a lot of people, and even for Ben Bernanke, it's too high. He told a group of high school students a couple weeks ago that he really wished he was leaving the Fed with 5% unemployment. That was his goal, and the Fed has been so laser-focused on that jobs picture. That's been number one in their point of view, even though they're also supposed to be looking at inflation. But inflation hasn't been that significant.
Really interesting stuff. Rebecca Jarvis, busy day. Thank you for giving time to us.
No problem.
Merry Christmas, and we'll talk to you down the road.
Thanks so much. Great talking.
7:29 here on the Big 550 KTRS.